So we can scale this plant to 300 megawatts, which would be phenomenal, right? It'd be phenomenal. And then we also did a public-private partnership with NASA. This was a really cool project because it was on federal land. It was at the Cape. It was at the Kennedy Space Center. So when we went to lease their land, typically we're not very good at leasing land. We like to buy and own everything. But in this case, we wanted to work with NASA and as rocket scientists. So we offered to negotiate a lease with them, and we basically said, we'll give you X amount of dollars, and they said, we don't want cash. We said, okay, all right. That's not too many people say that, right? Well, the reason for that was we didn't know is if you give the Kennedy Space Center cash, it goes to Washington. So they weren't able to keep any of their money. So we came up with a pretty cool concept. What we did was we negotiated a 30-year lease on their property, and then we took the net present value, discounted back for the land and the O&M, and we took that and put a monetary value on it and said, we'll build you your own little power plant, a solar plant, which was 1 megawatt behind the fence, meaning behind the Space Center. So we built them their own little 1 megawatt facility. We operated for them. And the way their contracts work is that the federal projects get 2 RECs, which is renewable energy credits, for every megawatt. So they're happy. They got a big award out of it. And then this one, this is really an interesting phenomenon. This is the first of its kind. This was a chance for us to really show some innovation. You would think utility companies are fairly bland, stale, but we've actually won, in the last 3 years, we've been the #1 innovation company in the energy sector and actually in the top 10 with Apple and Google and those guys. So it's pretty good. We've also got 7 years in a row as the most admired energy company in the nation, so by Fortune magazine. So anyways, it put those things to test. And what we did here is we've got the largest natural gas plant in the country right here. And what we did was we said, hey, that's already storage. It's already built-in storage, natural gas. So you don't have to worry about intermittency. If the sun's not out, the natural gas plant runs. So what we did is we connected to the same turbines. We connected gas plant, but not using PV. We use solar thermal, which are the mirrors, and these mirrors track the sun. We had a few issues. I got the fortune of being the guy who had to do all the stories on why the plant didn't perform as well as it should have. The reality was, I think there are a couple things happened. One is we did not account for the amount of expansion and retraction in the system, because obviously the heat and the cooling. So we had a major leak, and what's inside these solar mirrors is it's an oil. It's an oil, synthetic oil. So we had to shut the plant down for a while. The other thing is that the solar plant is basically hooked to the natural gas turbine unit 8. So when unit 8's down for outages, our solar plant was down. So even though we projected about 150,000 megawatt hours the first year, we came in at about 29,000. So it was pretty tough to send those reports to the PSC, and how many media, we had to do like 5 media interviews. And we just did another one this year. A couple weeks ago, I did 3 media. One was the fact that this year we got 88,000 megawatts. We're projecting 111. And we'll eventually get there, but it's been a pretty interesting story. But this was truly innovation. It's the first of its kind. And the only change is that when we built this plant, solar thermal was actually cheaper than PV. And today, PV is a lot cheaper than thermal, obviously because of scale. So right now we own about 307 megawatts of solar, but we've got over 500 megawatts in development in California, Arizona, Nevada, and Texas. So we will quickly jump over NRG in this project. Okay, and this is, we just had an incredible milestone. We have just put in our over 10,000 megawatts of wind. That's an incredible, most utilities don't even have 10,000 megawatts of anything. It's 10,000 megawatts of wind. That's an incredible story. So that's like a large utility. We have, at FPL, for example, we have 24,000 megawatts, and we're on any given day, we're the 3rd largest utility in the country. So 10,000 megawatts of wind, and you can see that the second is Iberdrola, which is a Spanish company, and they're doing a lot of stuff here, but they also did a lot in Spain. If you go through if you travel in Spain and you go on the transit, the train system, you can see a lot of the wind turbines all through the hills and the mountains. So most of our wind is from Texas all the way to Canada. So we're real proud of that accomplishment. And then right now we're actually, what you see, that thing called FIT is a feed-in tariff. What happened is the government puts in a plan that basically says for every megawatt of renewable energy, you will be compensated at X, which in this case was like 20 cents. So if the cost of electricity is 10 cents, but you put in renewable at 20, they will pay you for the 20 cents. So it allows us to aggressively go out there and it's a government subsidy program, take advantage. So we're building all over Canada right now. We also built a solar thermal project in Spain, and it's not like the one in Martin. These are not connected to a gas plant. These are standalone solar thermal projects. So, and this is the one we're building out in the desert. These are going to be monsters. I mean, 250 megawatts of solar out in the desert. These are going to be the solar thermal. And what they do is they actually track the sun. So these mirrors actually throughout the day, they basically chase the sun. And these get about 30% capacity out in the desert. So nuclear we're proud of our nuclear. I know nuclear gets a bad rap in the industry. There hasn't been a nuclear plant built in the United States since 1976, I think. But, you know, candidly, the nuclear plants run very well. It's part of the reason we've been able to keep our costs as low as they are. If you can see here, the typical bill in the United States is about $128 a month, and we're at $94. And the number one project up there, the number one area, Washington, that's predominantly hydro. And those were built in the 30s. And when they built the hydro plants in the 30s, it was an absolute rebellion because they said it was too expensive. And it was, you know, the utilities were under attack, similar to what you're hearing about solar today. So solar today, I could build you a solar plant for about $1.50, $1.60 a watt. That's pretty phenomenal because you'll never have to use fuel again. So for $1.60, you built it. The levelized cost will probably be about 11, 12 cents, but you never have to use any fuel. So what happens is solar is only going to be as good as the cost of natural gas. So today, it might seem a little higher, but it's a hedge. And when do you want to hedge? You want to hedge when natural gas prices are the lowest because it's only going to go this way. So as soon as we begin exporting to Europe and stuff, gas prices will probably go up, make solar even more attractive. So it's a nice ability to. I'm not talking about it's a game changer for everybody, but it is a natural opportunity for us to take advantage of an inherent fuel, which is solar, and it allows you to be able to balance a portfolio, not be overly dependent on one fuel versus another fuel. So it's a nice niche play. So nuclear, where we're at now is we just spent about $3 billion, what we call uprating. And we added about 250 megawatts to both our Turkey Point and our St. Lucie facility. And those went on schedule, on budget. They're doing phenomenally well. The fuel savings alone in 1 month against a fossil plant is about $10 million. That's what you'd be spending on fuel with a nuclear plant. And we're planning for the future where there's no real timeline. I think the key for us is to get the license. Once you get the license, you can monetize the license. But it does take, it's about a 10-year process once you get the license to get a nuclear plant built. So you've got a couple companies that are looking. One Southern company that's building the next generation of nuclear, and then you've got some other entities that are playing with it. But I think what the issue is, look, if you're a CEO of a company, and your company's market cap is $20 billion, take a number, round number, it's going to cost you $18 billion to build a nuclear plant. It's going to cost you $1 billion to build a natural gas plant. Are you going to bet the company or not? And that's the debate that's going on with each CFO in the country. So even though nuclear is a great bet for the future, are you willing to bet the farm on the first one? That's the challenge that every CFO. So it's not a technical decision; it's an economic decision. So that's our challenge. And from an economic development, we just had 4,000 people working at St. Lucie on the uprate. And similar to a number like that at Turkey Point, right, Ramon? We had, how many people do we have working on it?
Around 4,000.
So in a time when you hear all these terrible stories about the economy and people unemployed, we're doing our best to keep people employed. And these are folks that are coming from, when we built that solar plant, we had Charlie, I can't remember his name, Charlie Gibson, ABC guy, did a story. For 3 days, there were people camped out outside our Martin facility looking, applying for jobs. So it's a great economic development. Energy is a great economic development play. So anyways, a lot of slides. Thank you for any questions. Can I take questions?